Hello, my fellow New Hampshire trumpet players auditioning for Allstate, and hopefully other trumpet players from other places. Chris Klaxton here, and now we're going to talk about Jazz Allstate. In the state of New Hampshire here, we have some regional educators who composed a jazz etude, and they recycle through this stable of etudes every few years. And so I'm looking at this year's in front of me. It's in the key of G for trumpet players, which is in the key of concert F if you're playing jazz bingo out there. Year to year, some of the composers put a lot of articulations, accents, longs, shorts, for you to try to get right. Some of the etudes are really densely laden with articulations, and I don't even think they're looking for the student to necessarily nail all of them. They're trying to make a point. The purpose of Allstate isn't to just put you through the ringer and scare you to death and make you work hard and maybe you'll make it, maybe you won't. The purpose is to teach you something so that everyone who auditions and practices towards this goal comes away with a boatload of skills they otherwise wouldn't have had, even if you don't make Allstate. So I hope that you find this helpful and appropriate, whether you're auditioning for New Hampshire Allstate or whether you're not. So this year, the etude I'm looking at here in the key of G, F concert, it doesn't have many articulations at all, which I really like. When I was young and I played this very same etude, my teacher, a trumpet player by the name of Jay Daly, one of the finest trumpet players in the country, he printed off a few copies. And he said, all right, Chris, I'm going to give you a real lesson today. And this is what the jazz language is all about. It's not about the fancy notes. It's not really about the blues scale or bebop or the music theory associated with it. It's about the rhythms. It's about how we curate and articulate and shape notes. So he printed out a few copies of the etudes and gave me a pencil. And he said, wherever you think there should be an accent, legato, or staccato, feel free to doctor it up yourself. So I sang it through, muttered it in my own head a little bit out loud, and I doctored up the sheet. When I played it for him, he said, yeah, that's all right. And he took it and he threw it away. And he said, now try it again and maybe do some of the same things you liked and change some of the things you thought didn't land so well. So I would encourage all of you to do that. And it doesn't necessarily need to be the New Hampshire Jazz Allstate audition material. If there's a piece out of the real book, any written jazz material, print a few copies and edit it yourself. Now, one of my heroes and mentor of mine is the trumpet player Clark Terry, and he was a master of articulation, shaping and curating each note. He could be playing a mile a minute, and each note has a life and a shape of its own. So I think our adjudicators really want to hear these eighth notes, the black and white on the page, come to life, and they want to hear your personal decisions. Now, what they don't want to hear is an element of jazz trumpet that might be a parody of the real thing. You know, they really, I don't think, want to hear anything. That's just too much. I don't know many people with a personality like that. So maybe that's too much personality. But if we were looking at this in a more bland manner without articulation, how can we curate and shape that with accents, long notes, short notes? That's my version. And what I really like to do when I'm working with my own students is scrap that version and try something completely brand new. Printing a few copies and trying to edit a few in pencil in different ways is my favorite way of trying to get at the heart of what the jazz language is. And before we start talking about how to pronounce it on an instrument or like what is really the history behind that, I think just printing a few copies and dealing with a pencil is the best way you could go. So this is a G blues. Before the end of the video, you're going to see what I believe to be I don't like to use the word correct, because with something as universally performed and as variable as the blues, there's no right way to play it or just perfect chord changes. But there are a set of chord changes that I think match this melody and match the bebop time period of the way that I think our adjudicators and our composers here in the state of New Hampshire are asking for us to maybe emulate. So I'll make sure to provide those chord changes before the video is through. But I would highly suggest learning the minor pentatonic and the blues scale, closely related, the major pentatonic, and to get to know both of these items alone and without a blues, without a backing track, without a metronome, without a band. That's just the scale up and down, the comfortable length of my trumpet. Here's the major one. You could take a great solo and entertain an audience for a whole night. As long as you know when the blues begins and ends and you can keep track of the 12 bars and speak confidently, you could oscillate between these two data sets and come up with a masterful solo at any age. If that's going well for you, or that's something that's already in your toolkit, I would suggest getting these measure by measure specific chord changes and trying to outline them. First, we need to make sure that we can perform these arpeggios on the trumpet. Just to make sure that you can reach for the 1, 3, 5, 7 in each chord, no matter where you are in your mind and where you are on your trumpet, that range-wise on the instrument, you can find the note you'd like to play. What I'd like to do now for you is play a 12-measure little etude that I'm going to try to keep things simple and dialed in. I'm going to try to render the chord changes as you'd play them on piano, as you take a look at a chord sheet and try to memorize those changes. I'm going to try to play you an etude that's not particularly mysterious and kind of lays the chord shapes right out there for you and gives you some money notes in each bar. So it might be advantageous for you to transcribe this simple 12 bars. If you cop the whole thing and steal it and play it as your solo in your audition, we will all know. But if you steal measures or moments, or if you extract from my little 12 bars the purpose of why I played those notes, why I did that, then I hope you get a lot from it. So, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So, do I think that's the hippest solo ever composed by a jazz musician? No. But do I think it's really clear? And does it give us a sense of what the chord changes are without looking at a piece of paper and without thinking G, B, D, F, C, E, G, B flat? I hope that a melody like this, or your own future melodies, become the placeholder in your mind that GBD used to hold. What you hear and what you feel in your head is the melody that's so comfortable, and you then improvise upon that. I also know that you have to probably play some scales, do a range check, and play ballad, My Foolish Heart. But the key with the ballad, I'm not going to perform it for you here, because if I were to, I'd really like to have a full band with me. But the key with the ballad is to not, just like classical all-state, don't let your whole, the gamut of personality and flair and fluff shine through. Render the melody in proper proportion and let a little bit of improvisation and manipulation out of the gate, right? Show the adjudicators or the audience that you know the melody, You know it as it is, but you can play that melody in a way that's unique to you. So enjoy. Again, don't forget to look at these chord changes. Don't forget to practice this stuff a little bit every day. Be practicing chords and arpeggios independent of all-state auditions. Get strong on the trumpet first and bring that strong trumpet player to particular projects. Good luck. Take care.